making Cavill this guy again. Hey guys, hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today I'm gonna be reacting to a video by Jody's Corner. It's about the box office of Doctor Strange versus the box office of the Batman. Now, I want to make this very, very clear before I even start this video. This is not a beef video. This is not an attack video. I do watch Jody's content, and I know some people who have been in communities that I have been part of are not, necessarily fond of Jody, and I've had a history with him where there's been some problems. I have nothing to do with that. This video is certainly nothing to do with that. This is just a video responding to what he said because I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting topic that he's discussing. Some of it I agree with. Some of it I think he's jumping the gun a little bit. And I wanted to respond to it because I just think that there's, I think there is a thing where often comic book fans and comic book movie fans do live in a bubble, and they live in this YouTube bubble. They think that everything that's on YouTube is Bible and it's the truth, and it's whatever the popular opinion on amongst YouTube nerds is. They believe that's reflected in the outside world, and it really isn't. It really isn't, because most people don't necessarily give a shit about these IPs in the same ways that we do. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. But there are some bits that I vehemently disagree with him on, and there are some bits where I'm like, actually, you know what? He's got a good point there. And I wanted to discuss it since I can't discuss it with him personally. And also, I'm going to make this a bit of a Q&A if anyone wants to ask any questions to me. I know I haven't been on for a while, but yeah, if you want to ask me any questions as well, feel free to ask me some questions. So let's start off with Jody. Let's see what he has to say. So this is his video. While Doctor Strange destroys the Batman in the box office, here's why the Batman underperformed. And this is his theory on why the Batman underperformed. And this is where I'm going to say, as I said, there's an aspect of it I agree with him on, that the Batman did underperform, but his solution, I think, is absolutely terrible. And I think the kind of toxicity that lives within the DC fandom, i.e. the toxicness of the Snyder fans and the toxicness of the anti-Snyder fans, because yes, they are toxic too sometimes. That has collided together and created this situation where other directors who are doing good jobs within DC, like Matt Reeves, are suffering the consequences of where DC is at now because it has fractured its fan base. I will go into that in a bit as a rebuttal to some of what he's saying, because I'm going to say that actually it's opinions like his that are leading to being part of the problem. And really, as comic book fans, here's one thing I want to say before the video starts, so that I don't forget. Box office is important. Certainly, if you want to see films like The Batman more rather than other kinds of films that, say the MCU put out, maybe you want to see that one day, but you also want to see different stuff. If you want to see movies like that, you need to go and support them, because no one else is going to support them for you, right? So if there's DC films that you enjoy, or DC characters that you enjoy, like The Flash, for instance, and you're thinking, I'm going to boycott The Flash. Well, boycott The Flash, but you might never see another Flash movie again. Because think about it. Look at what happened with Green Lantern. years and years and years now. WB just isn't even like, it's going to take years before you see another Green Lantern, right? So be careful, right? If you don't care about seeing another Green Lantern movie, fine, right? If you don't care about seeing another Flash movie, if it doesn't bother you not seeing a Flash movie, fine. But if you care and you want to see these characters again, and you want to see DC build, then if the movie's good and you don't go and see it, then that's on you. Well, it doesn't matter what, an actor did in it, or whether, you don't like, whatever. This is the Flash. If you're a fan of the Flash and you're not a fan of, say, just Zack Snyder, then go and watch the film. Same thing I'd say with Zack Snyder fans. If you're a fan of Zack Snyder, right, and you want to see more Zack Snyder films, and you want to see Zack Snyder maybe return to the DCEU, support him. Make sure you go and see that Rebel Moon. Because if you don't, it's on you. Okay, so I'm going to be reacting now. I love both films, but the Batman's runtime might have hindered the box office. I agree with that. That is some of the problem. And I really like both films as well. This is classic nerd man type video. I'll invite you on after I've finished doing my rant, if you're up to it, reacting to Jody, LOL. It's just because some of the things he said I think really do hit home, and then some of the things he said I just I'll go into it after.
And was beat by Doctor Strange in the box office? Say it ain't so.
Gracias por ver la esquina de Jody. Thank you for watching Jody's Corner.
YouTube was good. It's your boy Jody Joe. Welcome to Jody's Corner. Thank you guys for being here. The Batman was beat by Doctor Strange. That's the headline of this video, because not too long ago, I made a video on YouTube called "How Did the Batman Underperform?" And it was a video that sparked some controversy because certain people didn't like the contents of the video, because how could $750 million worldwide be an underperformance? Like, what are you guys talking about? How did Batman underperform, making $750 million? It just doesn't make sense to me. Well, if we take a look at the estimates that came out for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness debuted in North America, that's domestic only in this country, at $187 million. Obviously, you're going to say, well, what did the Batman open up at? The Batman for this year was the #1 opening weekend for this year at $134 million. So Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness made more than $50 million in this country than the Batman. I don't know about how you feel about that, but I feel some type of way. As a Batman fan, as a DC fan, I feel some type of way. Because for a long time, I've said Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, DC had the more popular characters. Batman is an A-tier character. Batman's got no business getting beat by a C-list hero in Doctor Strange. Say what you want about Doctor Strange. He is very much, in fact, C-list. You could argue D-list when it comes to comic books and who Doctor Strange the character is. Even when you look into the MCU, his movie,
Okay, so let's start off with a few differences, just to start off straight away. Now, I agree with him. I think the Batman underperformed. At the moment, it's standing at about 770. Like it's just shy of 770 million worldwide. Okay, so let's start off with some differences. The clear tone of the Batman is more adult oriented. That's factual. I mean, like, you can't take children. You can't be like, this is fun for all the family. This is DC trying to be distinct from the MCU, which is, I think, is a good thing. I think is a good path that they need to stick to for a little bit before they see the kind of returns that that the MCU is getting, or that Marvel's getting, or even like halfway the kind of returns that Marvel is getting. So the first thing is, it's not it wasn't family friendly. Now, one might say, well, what about the Joker then? How come the Joker didn't win? Made $1 billion. Well, the Joker was a shorter movie, so so I think Mockingjay said the runtime might have hindered it. I also think that The Batman is one of those films, and I'm not trying to cap here. I think it's honestly one of those films that the first time you watch it, you might go, I don't get this. I think this is try hard. I think this is trying to be Nolan, and I don't think it's doing it as well. I think on a rewatch, a lot of people might find value that they didn't find initially to The Batman. So I think, as the years go on and people get to rewatch The Batman, more excitement is going to be generated for a sequel. The third thing, which I think is really important, like in terms of this, because as I said, watching it the first time, even I was like, the Batmobile doesn't have gadgets. There's things like he's not being too Batman. I didn't get it at first. It's one of those things that you need to rewatch, digest a little bit, and then you come back to it. And sometimes that isn't the greatest thing for immediate box office, but I think the sequel will benefit from that. Oh, okay, I'm going to rewatch it. Whereas Doctor Strange, I mean, again, it's already got this inbuilt MCU fandom. They had the thing where, there was this idea that there was going to be lots of cameos and fun stuff that was in Spider-Man No Way Home, for instance. And we'll get on to other things later, but that was my main kind of thing with that. You've got the adult-oriented. It's made for adults, so it's going towards a mature audience. Kids can't go really watch the Batman, so you're not going to get the whole family going to watch the Batman. That's going to make the box office, bigger for Doctor Strange. The second thing about because, and this is where I'm going to agree with him later. I think the action could have been a little bit better in the Batman. For instance, the story was fantastic. The action, I think Matt Reeves needs to kind of improve on the action kind of area of the Batman, because on first watch, I felt like there was no action in the movie. And it was only on second watch, I was like, okay, I get it. He's building this Batman up. This is his second year. And, each time he's getting a little bit more sophisticated. But he hadn't got to the level of Batman that I wanted, even by the end of the movie. So there I agree with him on. T Virus says, the Batman is a masterpiece. I don't care what any human says. When we get the sequel to the Batman, it's going to make more money. Now that humans know what they're going to get. I agree with you. And this is where I'm really going to disagree with him towards the end in what he says. People forget that Matt Reeves said that this is a detective noir story, not some action-heavy Batman, which most were expecting. Again, I agree with you, but I think you could have both. Black Rock 316. I think you could have had both. I think the action could have been a little bit more polished. Because even for me, I thought that there were bits where I was like, well, for the realistic tone you're going for, this doesn't even match the realistic tone. Like, for instance, when he flies in the bat suit, right, and he's flying, it opens up the parachute or whatever, and then he smashes into the bridge, and you're like, you'd be dead. That doesn't strike me as very realistic. So at times he went over the top. right? Like which kind of reached into Black Widow territory, and then afterwards he went under. He didn't he yeah, like afterwards he would then go back into the realism thing. So I think he needs to find a way of realistically doing Batman fight scenes that are epic, and I think towards the end he actually did that. I thought like towards the end with the where he took on all the Riddlers, I thought towards that end he did that, and I think you could do both basically at the same time. So let me go into something else. I think if they just come out and say it banned man takes on the villain then from Saw movies. Yeah, Batman takes on the villain from Saw. I think it was a version of the Riddler. I have read the Riddlers that are kind of like that, so I wouldn't say that. When the Batman becomes a trilogy, everything will look better. This is what I was going to say. Thank you, T-Virus, for reminding me. When you think about it, even Batman Begins made far less money in the box office when it came out, right? It made like about 300 and something worldwide, and that was right after these terrible Schumacher movies, right? So it kind of took a while, and then they rebooted it with the Nolan style. And what do you know? The next movie made over $1 billion, right? So it went from like 300 million to like a jump of $1 billion. Now, my point is this. Now, I know that some might say, well, Batman Begins came out in a time when superhero movies weren't popping off like that, so you can't really compare it. And I would say I agree with that. But where I would say that there is a parallel in that situation is that you can't just go, oh, if they had gone Batman Begins like they did with Superman Returns, by the way, Superman Returns made a little bit more than Batman Begins, and they didn't go back and do a sequel to Superman Returns. They were planning to, but they didn't, right? They were going to do Superman versus Brainiac, and I think it sounded like an epic, actually fucking epic movie. Now, Batman Begins makes around 300 something million, right? And if they had have looked at that movie and done what this cat is trying to say here, Jody's Corner, which you'll find out in a minute, and gone, it kind of underperformed for a bit. I mean, this is Batman. Batman should be making the same as Batman Forever. Batman Begins should make the same bank as Batman Forever or Batman Returns. Like, this Batman Begins just isn't making the bank that I'm expecting. Let's change the tone. Let's change how, what Nolan is doing and make it and shift it. That's a silly thing to do because the fact is it's profitable, right? Profitable enough to continue the series. And what you're going to do is you're going to get all of those people who liked the movie, who liked the first Batman movie, The Batman that just came out, and you're going to turn them against the trilogy. You're going to turn them against that franchise. So what you'll be stuck with is a whole bunch of new people like Jody who go, oh, I like this new version. And then all the people who like the older version going, what the fuck is this? So you'll have the same problem that you have with the Snyder movies. You'll create a whole new division of, oh, there's one half that likes this new version and another half that doesn't like it. And it's the same problem. So that is the wrong way to do things. It is absolutely the wrong way to do things. Never, unless your movie bombs, don't change up the style of the sequel. That's the worst thing to do. You can improve the storytelling, you can improve the action, right? And make the franchise, elevate the franchise that way, but don't change the style. Another example, Justice League, right? Now we had Man of Steel had a bad like some certain people didn't like what they did with Man of Steel, including myself. Batman v Superman, certain people didn't like what they were doing, but the fact is the box office was getting higher. The first one made a certain amount of money. The sequel made a little bit more, like 200 million more. Justice League, if it was in the same tone, I imagine would have made a little bit more than Batman v Superman. The whole point of it is, right, when you change the tone radically from what you had before, all you're going to do is put off the inbuilt fan base of that franchise. So there's no point doing that. What you need to do again, right, is take BVS. You should have done a sequel in the same tone as BVS, but improved the writing, improved the action, improve on all other kind of aspects of what was given in BVS. And then you would have had a success. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next bit.
His first movie was okay. I don't think Doctor Strange is in barely anybody's top 10. Surely not their top 5. Why is it that a hero like Doctor Strange, someone who was emasculated in No Way Home, someone who didn't really mean much in Endgame, how is it that he could release a movie in the pandemic and make more money, not just more money, a substantial amount more of money than the Batman? Because when we're talking about worldwide, the Batman did about 260 million worldwide. 260 million worldwide opening weekend. Well, guess how much Doctor Strange made? $450 million opening weekend in the box office. In one weekend, Doctor Strange almost doubled the Batman's opening weekend. Almost doubled it. That is insane. Batman had a 45-day theatrical run. They wanted to blame it on HBO Max, but it had 45 days in theaters and only made $750 million within those 45 days. Well, I hope you guys making excuses for Batman understand and smell the coffee now, because Doctor Strange will make more than that in 30 days. Doctor Strange will surpass $750 million worldwide than the Batman did in less time than the Batman did. I think Doctor Strange will make $750 million in less than 30 days. So take that 45 theatrical window and throw that excuse to the wind. Oh, but Batman didn't make that much because it's a pandemic. Spider-Man No Way Home made almost $2 billion. Well, that was nostalgia. That was a team-up movie. You had a lot of Spider-Man, so that doesn't count. Oh, okay. Doctor Strange did it. We got to stop making excuses and capping and just look things for what they are. And I'm going to give you guys exactly what I think is the situation and how we fix this situation. Batman needs to be fixed. The Batman needs to be fixed. Yes, I'm saying it. Call for action. They said it was, it's the war in Ukraine.
Okay, so going into Doctor Strange, first of all, family film. So I just have to kind of keep on emphasizing that. Secondly, MCU. We all know MCU is a juggernaut now. People are more willing to go and see MCU movies, especially casual kind of viewers. But also the MCU has just built up a huge fan base. It's built up a fan base by not disappointing them, by not changing things halfway through, and you're telling a story and then just quitting the story because there's a few people who are going, oh, I don't like this fucking story, right? That's what the MCU has done. They just keep on chugging along. When they had bad movies with a lot of bad movies, by the way, when they had bad movies with Thor The Dark World, they kept on chugging along. When they had bad movies with Captain Marvel, they keep on chugging along. When they have bad movies, they have had lukewarm receptions to their movies, and they just keep on going. That's the difference. Stability. It's just like this channel, right? I don't come on every week. I don't give you a time that I'm coming on. I come on randomly. And guess what? I don't have that many subscribers. Why? Because I'm a little bit like random, right? If you do random shit, right? Every once in a while you do a good thing, then you do a bad thing, then you do... People get confused and they can't rely on you. The MCU, beautifully, as I've said, just keeps on doing mediocrity. They keep... No, I'm sure. They do good movies, but in general, they keep to the storyline that they've started. Plus, they're reliable. I find them reliable in the sense of I'm probably gonna be 50-50 on their movies, if not like them. But it's reliable. I can rely on the fact that when I go to an MCU movie, I'm probably not gonna like it. I'm probably gonna find the humor stupid. I'm probably gonna find the cinematography just basic. I'm probably not gonna like the score all that much. I can rely. It's reliable, right? And that's the thing. Reliability is so fucking core to all of this, right? So if you want to build up a reliable brand, the last thing you want to do is what Jody is saying right now, right? You've done something, you're going to hear some naysayers when the thing has like 87% approval rating, A fucking cinema score. Critics like it, fans like it, etc., etc. But 20 to 15% of people think that it's got a problem. So let's listen to those 20 to 15% of people and fucking change the whole nature of the Batman franchise. That is asinine. It is asinine, and it comes back to fan entitlement. This isn't my Batman. Well, you know what? Sometimes it's not going to be your fucking Batman. Sometimes it's not going to be my Superman. We have to be able to handle that, dudes. We've got to stop with this fan entitlement that everything has to be as we imagined it from our little sandbox and our little cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons that we watched, when we were years old, whatever. It's not all going to be like that. You know, like that's just how it is. We're not all gonna get our little Saturday morning cartoon that we can feel like, oh, this is the Batman that I have in my head. If you want actual, original, unique voices and artists to be able to take on these IPs, you're going to have a little bit, just a little tiny bit of just tolerance for other people's visions, right? And you're not going to use the fact that it made 750 million versus, even though it was profitable, versus another movie that's in another franchise, which is a bigger franchise, which has a longer running success rate, which has all of these things going for it. You're going to use that against the Batman so that I can get my way, so that I can have my little Saturday morning cartoon, Kevin, whatever his name is, Kevin Conroy version of the Batman, which I think that everybody is going to jizz over. Well, I'll tell you what. I bet you anything. If you put out the Batman that Jody was talking about and the version that they have in their head, I don't think it's going to make that much money either. That's the truth of it. DC is in a place where they have to build up a relationship with their audience by being reliable again. MCU fans didn't want the Batman to make 2 billion. No, I know. I think that there's also a thing of like, Jody likes to spin a narrative. If he doesn't like a film, he will act like everyone hates it. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no, but I do think I agree with him. It underperformed, but I think I'll go into why more. I think it underperformed later. I think when the MCU does a full reboot to its universe, we'll see people say, that's not my Cap, that's not my Iron Man. I agree completely. Yeah, that's a bit too much. Doctor Strange 2 is a very, very good movie. And you know what? I'm surprised, like it is pulling in like the family audience. I guess it's got enough family elements to it, where it's pulling in a family audience. But the one thing I'll say about it is it's got a lot of horror elements that I think would scare children. You know, people were saying that about Shazam, and I was like, nah, not really. I think kids can handle that. The horror elements in this one, I think, really would frighten children a lot more in Doctor Strange 2. And I just think it's a well directed, very beautifully shot. Um, it's among the best comic book movies. I dare say it's in my top 20 comic book movies. I like it a lot. The Batman is probably in my top 10, but I would give hey rogues. I would definitely give the Batman yeah, in Batman's heading out my top 11 comic book movies, and I think Doctor Strange is going to be top 20. It's fantastic. I really think it's good. I think it's a companion piece to his to the Raimi movies. I really like it. Live long and prosper. Thanks, man. You too, bro. Oh, hey, Halogen, we've got to talk about the new Star Trek. I think you'll actually like it. I watched the first episode. It's very good. We need to talk about that. It's called Star Trek. What the fuck is it called? Strange New Worlds. Yeah, so if you want to talk about that, hit me up. All right, so let's go on to continue this.
You know, it's not being played in Russia, in China, in Ukraine. Well, guess what? Doctor Strange is not being.
Oh, and by the way, let me just make something very clear. He's going to say something about the Ukrainian war. I really do believe the Ukrainian war did impact the Batman's box office. You have to remember, Ukraine is right next door to Central Europe, and it was right at the kickoff of the Ukrainian war that the Batman came out. And the Batman's a pretty dark, bleak kind of affair. And I think given that context, maybe that's not the thing that everyone wants to watch. Plus, you've got a big Ukrainian refugee crisis in Europe. I do think that impacted the box office of the Batman. And that's not me trying to make excuses and capping. I still think it underperformed. But in the end of the day, you know, you can't compare it now, because for the Ukrainian war has been in, and everything that's happening there has been in the news for now weeks and weeks and weeks, right? So it's not going to have the same kind of impact. Spider-Man came out before the Ukrainian war. Then the Batman came out like literally the fucking week, I think, that the thing kicked off. And everyone's thinking, holy shit, we might have nuclear Armageddon or some shit like that. And then you've got this super dark kind of like Batman movie in cinemas. I don't think that's gonna jibe with the time. Maybe if it was like a happier Superman movie, it might have done a bit better box office. But even that, you know, you never know. I think you've got Corona. There was some new thing in China. China's now shut down for business as well, even now. Then you had this war kicking off, which was just something very unpredictable indeed. So I do think, especially in Europe, not so much in America, but especially in Europe, I think the Ukrainian war did impact the box office of the Batman. Definitely. I think there were a lot of people who were just concerned with what's going to happen. We're right at the doorstep of Russia, and they're talking nuclear weapons. So in America, the Batman doesn't really have that kind of excuse, though.
Played in Russia, in China, and Ukraine. Still made $450 million. There are no excuses. The Batman didn't do bad. The Batman's not a flop. a lot of people have a issue with the word underperform. I said the Batman underperformed because it did underperform. The suits
Agreed.
at Warner Brothers did not expect Batman to make just $750 million. They had expectations. A film could still be a and still underperform, guys. You guys need to know the difference. If I make a movie and it's Batman, for sure. All the Dark Knight did $1 billion, the Dark Knight Rises did $1 billion, Batman stock is higher than ever. We're about to release this Batman movie, and we're looking at we're expecting $1 to $1.1 billion. That's what we expect. But the budget for this movie is about $300 million after our advertisements and all that. We're 300 in. I would say once we hit $600 million, we're in stable profits, and it's a success after 600 million. But we expect it to make $1 billion easily. And when that movie comes in at $750 million, Warner Brothers are like, okay, it's a success. We made our budget, but we are $300 million short of our expectations. Why is that? That is the underperformance in itself. The fact that it didn't meet expectations. Warner Brothers can come out and say what they want. Oh, we're happy. We're so happy and thrilled that it made
Yeah,
750.
me too.
Oh,
Me
bullshit.
too, Alan.
They
'Cause
wanted that
I
billion,
didn't think
they wanted
the
that 900
first.
million, they wanted that 1.1 billion,
Sorry,
whatever their
just
expectation.
quickly, I didn't think the first season of Discovery was terrible, but then it went off a cliff with all the politics injected into it. It went too far, jumped the shark, as they say. So, all right, I agree with pretty much everything you said just then. Apart from the Ukrainian war, I think you can genuinely say. Even I was expecting the Batman to do $1.5 billion. I mean, this is the Batman, right? This is DC's most popular character, and it makes me very worried about like the box office of future kind of projects of DC. That being said, I still think they should stay the path of what they are doing right now, and bring out more movies, announce movies now, right? Like announce say you're moving towards a Justice League, say you're moving towards like adaptations of famous graphic novels, say you're moving towards a Green Lantern movie. These are the things that you need to do, because I don't think anymore the problem with DC's brand is the quality of the movies. The quality of the movies, I think, for a while has been good. Some people might disagree with me on, famously, I've had these discussions about Zack Snyder's Justice League. I want to move on from that. I think most of the people that I've spoken to agreed with me, on the Batman, for instance. A lot of people agree on Shazam. There are movies there. Wonder Woman, obviously. There are movies there that have been good. I mean, they have a lot of good movies that have come out in recent years. The problem has been consistency in terms of not overreacting to audiences, not overreacting to box office, and staying the path. They did the same thing with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1 comes out. Patty Jenkins has a big idea. This isn't really a sequel. It's something else. I'm going to change the tone of it, blah, 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 blah. No, it's terrible. You don't change up. Don't mix up. If Wonder Woman 1 was like, Wonder Woman 1984 in tone, right? It was a similar tone to Wonder Woman 1984. And, Wonder Woman 1984 came out, I would have understood it, right? If that was the first one was like that and it was a success, and then they brought out Wonder Woman 1984, fine. But why would you? Especially, like, at least with Batman v Superman to Justice League, I can see some kind of logic there, where it's like, okay, people didn't like Batman v Superman, right? Or at least critics didn't like it. The box office wasn't so bad, but it underperformed, right? So let's switch up the style of Justice League. So I can kind of understand the logic there. I still think it was stupid because, again, you were on an upward rise. The film was profitable. It had its fans. Why alienate that fan base that you've built up? Never alienate your fan base, right? Because they're just going to leave, and then you're going to be left with, two competing fan bases. Who one of them likes this style, the other likes that style, and they can never come together and really agree on anything. So with Wonder Woman, I don't even know why they did it. Wonder Woman 1, everyone liked it, liked the tone, liked everything, and then she completely changes the tone in the second movie. Don't understand it. I'll never understand it till the day I die. That was her issue. So, but apart from that, I think they've been, at least in terms of the critical reception and how people have looked at the movies, I think there've been a consistent amount. And this is a film I don't even like personally. You've got Suicide Squad. A lot of people liked it. Keep the tone the same. I don't like it. I may not watch the next one, but if you're bringing out a next one, keep the tone the fucking same. Don't start changing things up. Keep it the James Gunn bullshit that I fucking hate. I'm going to watch it and I'm probably going to want to throw up. But at least it's got a fan base. Keep the tone the same and see if that fan base comes to support it. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Again, a lot of people dislike it, but a lot of people like it. Keep the tone the same if you want to do another Justice League movie. I think, again, the Batman, agree to disagree. I think a lot of people did like it. A lot of people enjoyed it. Keep the tone the same and keep it pushing. That's my opinion on it. So let me just finish off what he says, like what his conclusion is with what we should do.
Look at that. It just fell to like the 5th most important character in the MCU, bruh. There's no excuses for this. Now I understand. Batman stands. What I'm saying here, this logic is going right past you because you're a fanboy. Fanboys are trash. Fanboys don't see the negative in the things that they love. There's no logic with fanboys. They're just going to defend, cap. Defend their hero. This video's not for y'all. This video is for DC fans and the ones who want DC to accelerate, not just any one character. I'm using this one character to kind of shed light on what time it is. And what time it is niggas ain't feeling Matt Reeves' Batman. That's why it made 750. You could blame a pandemic. You could blame China. You could blame Russia. You could blame Ukraine. You could blame your auntie, your uncle, your neighbor next door, the neighbor who touched you 5 years ago. You have uncomfortable waves to this day. You can blame whoever the heck you want to blame. But the simple fact of the matter is that niggas ain't feeling that Batman on a big level, period. Man of Steel made $50 million, like $80 million less than this movie, bro. That don't make no sense. That realistic, unheroic Batman suit that Robert Pattinson is parading around in this movie, miss me. Here's how you do it. A sequel is on the horizon. They already greenlit it. Matt Reeves, get your shit in order. Change that makeshift Batman suit. Make something more heroic. In his next movie, Batman, scrap your idea right now, Matt Reeves. Whatever dark Riddler emo thing you had planned for the sequel, throw that in the trash. This emo Bruce Wayne needs to go. He looks fragile as shit. He needs muscle. That's what you work on first. You get that Robert Pattinson right. Comb his hair, make him look like $1 billion. Make this motherfucker, give him some finesse and some bravado and some muscle ASAP. Somebody deliver him some pizza. Take me into the...
Okay, here we go. So this is where, like, I fundamentally, I just have to disagree with, like, everything he say. The last thing you need to do is change the tone of something that most people who watched it agree they enjoy. Because those people, when the Batman 2 comes out, are going to go and watch it again, right? You do not want to alienate those people. So any drastic changes like that, like, are gonna that's gonna put off people. Now, where I agree with him on, yeah, improve the action. Certainly, you can improve the suit, but you have to improve it in a way that tonally is consistent with the movie that we just saw. You can't just go out there and be wild and decide I'm just going to turn this into cartoon Batman because, a few people didn't like it. And let me make something very clear. Part of the reason that this Batman failed, and it's completely ludicrous. This is how I know. Like, it's fans like who are pissed about what happened with Zack Snyder. So DC has alienated a bunch of its fans, which is a bad idea. I don't care if the fans are a bunch of toxic assholes who do stupid stuff, as long as they haven't killed anybody, as long as they haven't genuinely gone up and attacked a CEO or something like that. If they keep their irritating, asinine, vile, dumb bullshit to Twitter, where you can block them, by the way, then let them continue saying their stupid shit as long as they buy tickets to your fucking movies. You cannot alienate a whole audience because some of their fan base is toxic. Now, they can go on and say, oh, I really didn't like the Batman. I didn't feel the Batman. I didn't blah, 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 because it's not Ben Affleck. But the truth is, it's because it's not fucking Ben Affleck. That's what it is. And they feel, this fan base, that it's Ben Affleck versus Robert Pattinson, so they want to prove some kind of point. And I'll be damned. I might even, maybe I'm way off on this, because I don't think Spider-Man, for instance, was a $2 billion movie. I really don't. I think some of those fans wanted to stick it, some of the Snyder Cut fans, restore the Snyderverse fan base, wanted to stick it to Warner Brothers and went to see Spider-Man No Way Home multiple times. Plus, the MCU has a big fan base already. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm talking crazy. I think some of those fans went and they did that. I think some of those fans are doing that for Doctor Strange, making sure that the MCU kind of overperforms above above DC projects that they think are against what Snyder's doing. Even though the filmmakers have nothing to do with Zack Snyder, they're just other filmmakers trying to make the DC movies. There is a Snyder fan base, and I'm not saying they're toxic for doing this or whatever. I'm just saying there is a Snyder fan base that people are underestimating how fucking big they are. Because if Snyder's vision with Ben Affleck and all of that was running simultaneously with this, the Batman, I think a lot more of them would have felt less threatened, and they wouldn't be making stupid comments, which I see on Twitter, and this is how I know it's fucking for real, that Morbius is better than the Batman. That's how far they'll go. Like, they'll be going, oh, Morbius is a better movie than the Batman. Trying to elevate Morbius above the Batman because they're salty that DC has dropped Zack Snyder. And that's what they're going to continue doing until DC builds up a fan base independent of them by keeping on their path and putting out good project after good project, putting out Green Lantern. Here we go. But Morbius is better. I'm sure it is, my friend. I'm sure it is in your mind. To be honest, I think that if Ben Affleck was Batman in the movie, it would have made more. I do think that in a way that it would have made more, but in another way, I actually, I think if they were continuing the Snyderverse, right? Just because without Ben Affleck doing solo Batman movies, if they were just continuing the Snyderverse, and this Batman came out as an alternate universe Batman, just like a solo Batman trilogy that Matt Reeves is doing, then I think this movie would have made more money. because I think people would have been like, oh, cool, they're bringing out, I think every movie in DC would be making more money if they had have just kept along after they, and again, this isn't all WB's fault. Ray Fisher is part of this as well. Ray Fisher's to blame for some of this as well. So I'm not just blaming Warner Brothers. But Ray Fisher, some of what Snyder did, fueling the toxicity of those fans, made Warner Brothers go, we don't want to fuck with Zack Snyder at all anymore, right? So some of what they did caused this situation. But what I'm saying is, in general, if you had just Zack Snyder focusing on completing this trilogy that he wanted to do with the Justice League, after they re-announced that they were going to put out Zack Snyder's Justice League finally, if they had have done that, just that alone, and said, okay, we're gonna give him like 2 more movies in this universe, right? The Batman would have made, with Robert Pattinson, would have made more money. That's my theory, because a lot less of those Snyder fans would be feeling like, oh, it's our Batman versus this new Batman. That's the problem. They're putting Ben Affleck's Batman, they're saying, oh, the only way for us to be faithful to our trashy, killer, psycho fucking Batman from Batman v Superman is if we shit on other Batmans that have come out, that are coming out, like Robert Pattinson. And that is part of the fractured nature of the DC fan base that not only have the Snyder fans created, but the anti-Snyder fans who cannot accept that Zack Snyder's Justice League, whether you like it or not, was popular, and that people liked it and people wanted to see it continued. You can have it continued while still doing other things within the DCEU. Call it the multiverse. You could have continued that while doing other things as well, and it would have been fine, and you would have kept that fan base. And a lot of them would, at least, I think 60% of those fan base would have come out to support other DC projects, as long as they knew that their Zack Snyder, at least they would have given them a chance, as long as they knew that their Zack Snyder movies were, coming out as well. I think the Suicide Squad would have done better, because by all intents and purposes, people like the Suicide Squad. I didn't. I thought it was trash. But, I didn't think it was trash. I thought some of the humor was trash. I didn't like the characters necessarily, but I thought the action and the visuals and stuff like that was good. But people liked it, right? And it didn't do the box office. Because, one, I think MCU fans probably saved their money. Most of them will save their money to watch the MCU movies, right? Like, they can catch DC movies online if they're even interested in watching them. So that's one thing. They'll be like, oh, if Doctor Strange is coming out in a month and I'm an MCU fan and I'm into this world, I'll just save my money and watch Doctor Strange in the cinema, right? So those are like the hardcore kind of MCU fans who just really don't give a shit about DC at all, right? So you can't rely on them because you think, oh, they're fans of superhero movies, so they'll be fans of DC movies, right? It doesn't work like that. They're fans of the MCU movies, right? They're fans of that world. Then, secondly, you have now a splintered and fractured group in terms of DC fans. Now, these fans are fans who ordinarily would like darker takes on the superheroes, who ordinarily do like the more realistic takes on the superheroes. That's why they report or that they like Man of Steel so much, and why they like BVS so much, because it's got this realistic kind of take on the superheroes, and it really delves into what it would be like if you really were Superman. And if you really were Superman, think about it, man, your dad would tell you to let kids die. That is their fucking, that's their mentality, is like this whole realism thing is the shit. So why do they hate the Batman? Simple reason: they dislike the Batman because it isn't their Ben Affleck fucking Batman. I know people at work that refuse to watch DC films because they think they're all so bad. They do exist, lol. Okay, well, yeah, exactly. So you can't. Those people are probably MCU fans. You can't rely on them. You have to rely on the people who made up the box office, that made up 750 million or 770 million, right? That went to see the Batman. You have to rely on them, right, to come back and support the next movie, and bring other people who they think will like the next movie. And that's how you grow a fan base. That's how the MCU grew the fan base. Did Captain America, First Avenger, make $1 billion? Did Thor 1 make $1 billion? No. None of those movies. Iron Man didn't make $1 billion. You have to build up trust in your franchise. And one of the reasons the MCU has done it, again, reliability. And reliability is not changing the tone of a franchise halfway through the franchise. That is unreliable, especially one that has a huge success in cinemas. It's profitable, whatever. Even if it underperforms by your own imagination, that's just your greed speaking to you when you think 800 and something million is an underperformance. It's not an underperformance. Well, it is an underperformance by your metric, by what you're saying your standard is. But at the same time, it's profitable. And those people who like the movie, which is 80-something% of people who went to see the Batman, are going to come. Those 80% of people who made up that 770 million are going to come back in full force the next time. And you have to trust in that. Changing up the style will not do anything for you. So anyway, I think I'm done now. I've sent out a link on the community. If anyone wants to join, quickly, I'm going to go on for another 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm only going to go on for another 20 minutes. I dropped it in the community chat for anyone who wants to join. But yeah, that's it. That's my rant on this. Is there anything else that he said to?
Emergency gurney, transfer my fat, I have an abundance of it, and give it to Raw. Get martial arts, karate kick, spin kicks, somersaults in this next movie. I want to see this fool actually know how to fight, not just brawl with some freaking thugs. Number 5, introduce batarangs, bat grapples, and more gadgets to make him cause fear on the enemy. Batman things, smoke bombs, smoke pellets, radar detectors, batarangs. We need to make the fear real again. Add some comic booky type of superhero juice to these movies. Miss me with that realistic, real version take. We've been there, we've done that. Matt Reeves, take Christopher Nolan's car.
Again, I just want to say this. We have done the realism take and we have done the Nolan take, and this is a very, very different take from what Nolan was doing. Okay, so if you think this is what Nolan was doing, I think you just in general misunderstood the movie, and maybe the movie isn't for you. Maybe this isn't your Batman. Batman even though, yes, it's a big IP, does not necessarily have to make $1 billion each time. It just doesn't. So I do think I'd like this movie and the sequels and stuff like that to make $1 billion, and I think it should, and I think it will the next time, but it has to stay consistent. It can't kowtow to opinions like this. They cannot do that, because all you're going to do is people are going to go in and watch the next one who like this one, and they're going to go, this isn't the movie I fucking signed up for. And those people are going to be pissed off, and you're going to have Jody there sitting there with popcorn going, oh, this is the shit, blah, 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 blah. But unfortunately, it's going to be you and a few others going, this is the shit, while the rest of the people who like the movie aren't going to be, because you have to remember, if you didn't like this movie, the first, the Batman, you're probably not going to go and see the second one anyway. So there's no point trying to appeal to people who said they didn't like this one. Appeal to those who said they did, except just, ramp it up to a different level, to a next level. I just watched The Batman. It's pretty good. Okay, who else is there? Well, as an MCU fan, I didn't go to see The Batman because it's not connected to anything. I had standalone Batmans for 40 years. I'm good. Okay, good. So there's no point trying to appeal to you, right? Because the next time, 187, you go, the next Batman comes out, and it's not connected to some multiverse, where Dr. Fate can be in a Batman story and stuff like that. If it's not like that, you're not going to go on and watch it. So what is the point of trying to change the style of the Batman to fit you? You're not going to go and watch it. I know people. Okay, so I've gone. Well, it depends, dude. DC movies have in the past had a bad word of mouth. So have MCU movies. Again, I look at the box office. I look at, did people enjoy it, and if people enjoyed it, keep it pushing. Don't worry about what other people are saying. Are you going to keep covering the Amber Heard trial? Those videos were insightful. Interesting. I might do. There is a lot of people in real life that don't like Affleck's Batman. I'm kind of midway on Affleck's Batman. I liked him more. I liked him in BVS, in how badass he was, and he was dark, and he was like he was brutal. But I also like the hopeful side of him in Zack Snyder's Justice League. The only thing I really didn't like about Ben Affleck's Batman is maybe I'm not a huge fan of the casting, because I don't think that Ben Affleck needed to. Another actor could have done that role and done it just as well. And then the second thing, I don't like him killing, because I don't think it makes sense within that franchise. But apart from that, I'm good with Ben Affleck's Batman. I think he's among the better Batmen. He's good. He's good. There's just some things that I really dislike about him at the same time. To be honest, I think that if we read that. Go look at YouTube reactions, reviews, Instagram, Twitter, and more. People besides diehard Snyder fans truly hating this movie. People besides, I think he's saying there aren't people besides diehard Snyder fans that are truly hating this movie. Even some MCU fans like the movie. Right, exactly. Yeah, I think it grew on me as well. Definitely. If this Batman was a multiverse movie with old cameos in past DC movies, of course it will make a gang of money. Also, this is a new Batman in another universe. Yeah, I agree with that. But again, we're going to have a Flash movie that's a multiverse movie, and I don't think that's going to make that much money. Why? Because there are DC fans on there calling it the Flash. They don't care about it because they think it's somehow anti-Snyder. As long as DC keeps on this path of being anti-Snyder, they have to wait and build up. Basically, they've decided, right, that they don't want to go along with Snyder, and I can understand that. Given what Ray Fisher did, given everything, I think it's a tough call, but fair enough. You don't want to go along with Snyder's vision. Then what you have to accept is if the next few movies underperform, like The Flash, Shazam, Aquaman, all of those movies, if they underperform, because the Batman is probably the biggest box office earner, so I imagine maybe those movies are going to do less than the Batman. I hope they do more, like, films like Black Adam, but I suspect they might do less. Now, if those movies underperform, what DC has to just accept is that they are, but if they underperform but they're profitable, right? DC just has to accept that, okay, we're going to take this L for now, that these movies are not going to be as profitable, but give them sequels, and hopefully you're going to see the box office rise, as long as they keep consistent with what made those movies popular. So if Black Adam comes out, it makes 650 million, that's fine. Okay, don't expect it to make Doctor Strange money, because half your audience, or a big core of your audience, were Snyder fans, were fans of where the franchise was going when Snyder, with Patty Jenkins and Snyder and all of those kind of guys in the beginning. They were fans of that. They're not there anymore. So you're gonna take a hit, I think, of about 300 million for each movie, right? So as long as you're taking those hits for 300 million, I think that's going to last for a little bit. I think that's going to last for maybe the next 4 or 5 movies. If those movies are all consistently good, they get good reviews, people who go and watch them give them good cinema scores, they need to just stick that path and go, doesn't matter what MCU movies are making, if they're making $1 billion, $2 billion, blah blah blah, do not change the tone of those movies, because the fact of the matter is, if DC tries to make movies that are in the same tone as the MCU, all that's going to happen is MCU fans are going to go, well, I'm just into this MCU stuff. I don't really give a shit about the DC doing the same thing. I'm just going to stick with the MCU story that I've been watching for the last 10 years. Why would I go into another story like that that's doing the exact same thing? You need to differentiate your franchise from that franchise and go your own fucking route. I'm not saying it has to be completely at odds with the MCU. There's things that you can borrow and take and whatever from the MCU. But in general, I think if you do the same humor, the same way of like getting, getting some figurehead to dictate to directors what they're gonna, what story they're gonna tell, and keeping it all tonally the same, I think then people are just going to be like, well, I'm already into the MCU, I'll stick to that, thank you very much, I don't need to, DC is not doing anything different for me. Whereas if DC does something different and builds up a fan base for that, for what they're doing different, I think they'll be much more successful. That's just me. I might be wrong, but we'll see. 3 hours long, not very rewatchable for the average person. I find the Batman very rewatchable, but that's just me. Doesn't hit the 4 quadrants. It's establishing a new universe. The Snyder fans are against it. What is he not understanding? Yeah, I mean, I think 3 hours long, I don't think it's not very rewatchable for the average person, though. It depends what you mean by the average person. If you mean by like kids, then yeah, it's not very rewatchable for kids. I think it's very rewatchable for adults and people who go to this film. Doesn't hit the 4 quadrants. That's also true. And it's establishing a new universe. The Snyder fans against it. What is so those are the things that I think mainly for me, because remember the Joker did $1 billion. I think mainly for me it's the Snyder fans are against it. That is the biggest thing. The 4 quadrants thing, Joker didn't hit 4 quadrants. Not very rewatchable for the average person. Joker wasn't very rewatchable for the average person. 3 hours long. Okay, Joker was a little bit shorter than 3 hours, so I'll give you that. It's establishing a new universe. Joker was establishing a new universe. The major thing against this movie is the Snyder fans are against it. It's the major thing. I really, people think that they're just a drop in the ocean, that they're just a small group of people. I don't think so anymore. I used to think that. I thought they were just a very loud minority. I don't think so. Those Snyder films made a lot of money, and they made a lot of money in the second and third weeks. The people who went and saw those in the second, third, fourth weeks, pulling it up to 800 million, those were a fan base. You know, those people who went to see it once in the first week and were like, fuck this movie, I agree. That was a lot of people, because the second drop off was really pretty big. But in the end of the day, you know, the same with Man of Steel, second week drop off was pretty big. But in the end of the day, the people who went the second and third weeks and fourth weeks and liked the movie, you can't just alienate those people. Again, it was a bad mistake to alienate them. And you have to remember, of all of those people, you know, sure, some of them are fucking toxic. Some of them are annoying as fuck. But a lot of them are just fans of Snyder. You know, they just want to, or they were fans of that tone of, you know, or style of movie. So, you know, in the end of the day, like, alienating them, and I just don't think was the best idea, by just going for, you know, fuck this, we're not doing anything, we're not continuing the story that we're already established. We leave with this huge cliffhanger and we have no plans whatsoever to continue that story. I think that's a bad idea. I just do. Doctor Strange had more mainstream appeal and the MCU association. Exactly. It was always going to make more money than a 3-hour grim, humorless Batman movie. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think, again, when you take out the Snyder fans from, because again, the Joker, that's the big thing. Anytime you say that, I'll just say the Joker. You know, it's not necessary that those kind of movies cannot make that kind of money. The problem with the movie, and look, again, the Suicide Squad, apparently very popular on HBO Max. Apparently people loved it. You know, I didn't, people did. Has lots of humor, has action, bombed at the box office. Why is that happening? Again, it's because the Snyder fan base has fractured the DC fan base, and MCU fans, you can't rely on them. Trying to appeal to them to bring up another franchise, thinking, oh, they like superhero movies, so they're gonna like, you know, this superhero franchise over here, ain't gonna happen. You have to appease the fan base that you have built up yourself. I'm not saying that no MCU fans watch DC movies as well. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying, broadly speaking, you cannot rely on a fan base from another franchise to help prop up your franchise just because you're in the same genre. It doesn't work like that. We need directors that aren't being different just to be different. I don't think Matt Reeves was different just to be different, but I know what you're saying. Some movies need to have light, and some movies need to have dark universe. True. I don't want DC to be MCU, just be connected, just me. Yeah, you can be. I think they can be connected while doing more director-driven movies. That's what I've always said. I think that you can easily do that. So the way I would do it is just have the director be able to tell his or her story during the movie, with a caveat: the script has to be fucking good. For the next fucking 20, 15 movies, the script has to be excellent. If the script ain't good, tell the director to get the fuck out of here, like Wonder Woman 1984. So that's the only caveat I'll have. Other than that, I'd have it director driven. Then I would have somebody who is just responsible for connecting the movies, i.e., is responsible for making like after credit scenes that connects the movies. So everything else that in the movie the director gets to direct, just the after credit scene would be something that that a DC team does to connect all the movies together. That's what I would do. So after credits would be something that like a DC movie house is responsible for, that connects the stories. Nerd man, most of these Snyder bots, not Snyder fans, bashing DC because Snyder not involved. They don't need to be accommodated, honestly. Well, I'm not saying they need to be accommodated, but what I'm saying is, if you're not going to accommodate them. By the way, you can come on by K Dots. I sent it in the community. Oh, all right, yeah, cool. I sent it now. I'm gonna go in like, maybe 15 minutes or something like that. But yeah, come on, join. No, I don't think that they need to be appeased at all. What I am saying is that that if you're not going to appease the Snyder fans now, if you're not going to, you're done with that whole Snyder storyline and you're never bringing it back, then what you need to do from that is just accept that your next few DC movies aren't going to make that kind of money until you build up a separate fan base from the fan base you already had. Right? Like, hey man, how's it going?
What up? Can you hear me?
Yeah. So,
I came to kick you until you got it out.
I think I hope you understand my argument here. What I'm saying is that because of what Warner Brothers has done with DC recently, they fractured the fan base, which is fine.
Yeah.
They want to get away from Snyder. But what they have to accept is that the next few movies, because if Batman can't break $1 billion, then I'm very, very skeptical.
I think the second movie will.
I think the second movie will as well. But I'm very, very skeptical that Black Adam
as long
or
as
Flash.
The movies...
What I'm saying is I'm skeptical that Black Adam or Flash or Aquaman are going to do better than it. Unless they're so... I mean, I don't know.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. That's. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. They should. If they do better than the Batman, that's fine. Especially Black Adam.
I don't think they're going to do better than the Batman.
Oh, you don't think?
I
don't. You have to remember with Black Adam, you literally have Dwayne Johnson leading it. He's a powerhouse in himself when it comes to the box office. Robert Pattinson really isn't. Even, I'm not saying Dwayne Johnson's a better actor, but himself as a star brings box office. His presence. All that. He can do that. Robert Pattinson's not a big box office draw. Because remember, he's been doing like a lot of indie stuff for these past couple of years. Not a lot of big things to really become a movie star. Not saying The Rock is a better actor, but he is a movie fucking star. Believe it or
Yeah,
not.
but what are you going to say about Aquaman or The Flash? Is Ezra Miller a movie star with
No. What you see,
Movie?
and
It's
and and
my,
and
my,
well,
my
hear me out with the Flash. Hear me out with the Flash. Like, there's so many factors to it. You have the TV show that's been on for the past 10 years. You have the fact that this is a multiverse movie. You bring back Michael Keaton's Batman. Ezra Miller's not a star either, but everything around him is going to really help this movie. Now, if Ezra Miller, recently he said, him and WB said that they're going to put out a statement about this Ezra Miller thing, and supposedly he's going in to get therapy and all that stuff. Yeah,
Is that what they said?
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know when, but they're supposed to be doing it soon. If he can,
When did they say that? What did they say? Give me a link.
it was like
If anyone has a link to that, send it our way, man. Because I don't. I'm wondering if that's a rumor or if that's actually true that they said that they're gonna put out a statement and give it therapy or whatever.
we actually talked about it on the stream today.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna reply. Joker was anomaly fed off perceived notoriety and controversy. Otherwise, all superheroes would follow that tone. I don't think it was that much of an anomaly, dude. I think again,
because Joker's popular, bro.
Yeah, Joker's popular. First of all, Joker's popular. Second of all, at that point in time, the Snyder fans didn't have this big perception that like this, that their universe was over. It was still being kind of negotiated and stuff like that. They didn't have that perception. Tonally, it fit what they like about superhero movies because it was dark and brooding and blah blah blah. And it had, and I think the Joker itself, as not only did it appease those fans of like Snyder movies because of the tone, but it also appeased a lot of DC fans because that's what a lot of DC fans like. They don't like necessarily the lighter stuff, or the unnecessary humor injected into their movies. Right. I'm just saying that there is a whole base of superhero fans. I'm not just talking about. There's a whole, group of fans of superhero content who appreciate what the MCU is doing, but actually like more mature superhero movies and want to see DC be alternative to that. There is a group of fans who are like that,
right.
But they're also some salty ones who anyway, go on.
And see, I think that's fine too. But like I say, with this thing they're doing, right, this whole director-driven thing, for James Gunn to get the opportunity to do what he wants to do, the way he wants to do it, and his vision. Same thing with Matt Reeves. Like, mind you, we're just starting in it too. What it's really started in 2018 with James Wan. Hasn't been that long.
We started even with Wonder Woman. I think that was even somewhat director driven. Like they gave some notes.
I wouldn't say as much. It was she definitely not really, because they tried to take out the No Man's Land scene. So I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, but she got it in, didn't she?
She had to fight for it. She had to fight back to get it in, but she got it in. But like I say, once we see this other stuff coming out, that whether it be that Superman film or whatever, like it worked so far with the Batman. The Suicide Squad, that's a completely different factor, but people like the movie and it did great on streaming. People loved Aquaman, made over $1 billion. People like Joker, made over $1 billion. And we got a couple examples here and there. But let's be real, it's only 2 duds. Wonder Woman 84 and Birds of Prey. We are 4 up, 2 down. Now, we need to keep up we need to be consistent and keep it going. As long as you're consistent.
That's what I agree.
As long as you're consistent, you build up a momentum. You got to keep the momentum. That's all they have to do right now. Keep up the momentum. Now,
and that's why I'm saying That's
No.
why I'm saying they need to ignore if the box office isn't what they expect it to be. So, for instance, if Shazam makes like 500 million worldwide, right? Or something 480 million worldwide, or whatever, right? If it makes that, they need to accept the fact is that they need to build up a fandom for the Shazam franchise. And unfortunately,
Yeah. At
the
this point, Nerman,
Snyder
I said
fans
it.
are out. The Snyder fans are out.
Yeah.
As long as you want, and even if at this point, because they've made it so much Snyder fans versus the rest of the DC, I think even if they do bring back, let Snyder do part 2 and 3, I only think a fraction of them will be happy with that. Maybe like
Right.
30%
Because
of
it's
them will
not.
be
Because
happy with that,
if he does
and they'll
do it, it
support.
ain't. If he does do it, it's not going to be the original thing. Because
No. I mean, a fraction of them will be happy with that in terms of they will support other DC movies that aren't Zack Snyder. So
possible.
I think
I highly
the
doubt it, but
bad
possible.
blood has been built up to such an extent that even if you bring, say, Zack Snyder tomorrow, we're gonna let him do Justice League 2 and 3, continue his story. They still will be like, oh, Ben Affleck's better than Patterson. They'll still be like
Yeah, it's still going to
attacking
keep going.
other DC.
That's why I
You
say
know,
Nerman.
they
That's
should
why I
have
say.
never made that division in the
Well,
first place.
and
That's the problem.
Nerman, and I said this a while back. Originally, they should have released that 2 hour cut of Zack Snyder's back in 2017. And looking
It
at it
shouldn't have been
now,
2 hours. It shouldn't
well,
have been two
it
hours.
shouldn't have been. It
They should
shouldn't have
have
been two.
released a 3 hour
It's.
cut.
I wouldn't say
They should,
probably 2 hours 30 minutes, not 3 hours. But
you can't
it
release a 2 hour 30 minute cut of that movie. It's not possible.
yeah, I mean, it only
It would
works
have
in
been
four
shit.
hours. Even in 3 hours, it only works in 4 hours.
It
The
works in
movie
3
only
hours.
works. The movie only works in its full entirety.
I've literally cut that movie down in my head, and I think it works in about 3 hours. If you cut out a
You can
lot of
cut out
slow
majority of
motion,
that first and second act because if once you get
no, you
like
don't need to
a
cut out.
passing, once you get like
Yeah,
past
go on.
an hour 50 minutes in, they haven't even introduced Cyborg yet, who's very central to the movie.
So, okay, look, put it this way. I've cut out every scene. Like, you can do it yourself. Cut out every scene
I can too.
that is like kind of controversial, that people didn't like. The singing Aquaman ladies, there's just bits here and there that are just like unnecessary. They don't help the story move along. You cut out
Right.
all of those bits, and literally you've got like about a 3 hour movie. And there's still bits that I could even still cut out, like that are kind of that are just kind of unnecessary. So I don't think the problem with the 4 hour cut of that movie, he just did that because he got to show everything that he did. So he was just like, fuck it, I'm going to show everything that he did. But I think there is a solid, an absolutely solid 3 hour cut movie of Zack Snyder's Justice League that is probably a better movie than the 4 hour one.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I don't know, but probably is.
But this is why I say that. If they released any version that was all just Zack Snyder, not a Joss Whedon one, they would have been fine. And if they wanted to deviate and keep it pushing from after that, that's fine. At least they released his version. Sure, it would have been cut down because you have to think about theaters and other movies and stuff. You got to be courteous. We can't just be releasing 3 hour. You have to be courteous to other people because, and this also other thing too. Why I say that. Look at what the recent comic book movies come out. Movies like The Northman and all of them are getting like freaking swamped at the box office right now. Because of these bigger comic book movies. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. Like, I'm not saying these movies are bad, but these movies don't get a chance to thrive because they're surrounded by these comic book movies. That's why most of these movies just keep them at a relative, 2 hours, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because you have to be courteous to these other movies that
Why?
like the Northman and stuff. Because those movies do not get to thrive at all.
Yeah,
They
I mean that's if there are people
Hold on,
who
Norman, I'll
are
be right
like
back.
complaining about superhero movies and then don't go and watch the Northman and other movies like that, that's their problem. I went to see the Northman in cinemas. Where were all those people who complain about, oh, superhero fans, they don't go on, they're making these superhero movies so big that other movies can't, thrive in the cinemas? Well, I go and watch all those movies. I don't
But
see
that
all those people.
but
I don't see all
that's the
those
thing.
people
But
who
that's
are
the thing.
complaining about
There's
superhero movies in the cinemas.
But that's the thing. There's no
Where are they?
there's no casuals like you and me, or even Emma's that watch all these different movies. Most of these casuals do not just look at the Northman and go like, "I'm gonna go see it." But if they see a Doctor Strange movie or a Batman movie, they're running to go see it. But not to
Well,
get too much
I
off the point.
usually
But
go and
I
see at
think
least
2 hours,
the
2
Oscar
hours and 30
movies.
minutes would have been fine.
Yeah.
They did it for Infinity War, even though yes, it was built up across all the years, but they did that movie in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Infinity War, 2 hours 45. Yeah, but I think again 3 hours would have been fine.
It was
You've got a
less than 3
4-hour
hours.
movie. You've got a 4-hour movie. I think you could cut an hour out. I think you could cut out all of the nightmare scenes and just put those like Matt Reeves did with the Joker scene. I have to go anyway. So guys, since he's gone, I do have to go right now. But thanks for watching today. I'll see you soon. Sure, you'll see me on K-Dot's channel. Hopefully, I'll be on Film Elitist's channel as well. But I just wanted to do a reaction to this. Thanks for everyone who joined, and thanks for all of the comments. And see you on the flip side. Love you 3000. Peace.